The most publicized case of monarch monomania has surfaced through the book Transformation of America, The True Life of Story of a CIA Slave by Kathy O'Brien. On the back cover, it emphatically states Kathy O'Brien is the only vocal and recovered survivor of the Central Intelligence Agency's MK Ultra Project Monarch mind control operation. This documented autobiography contains compelling accounts of O'Brien's years of unrelenting incest and eventual introduction into Project Monarch by her perverted father. And that's something that's pertinent in the entertainment industry when it comes to incest, especially in regards to the operation. Along with co-author Mark Phillips, her rescuer and deprogrammer, Kathy covers an almost unbelievable array of conspiratorial crime, forced prostitution, white slavery, with those in the upper echelons of world politics, covert assignments as a drug mule and courier, and the country western music industry's relationship with illegal CIA activities. Paul Bonacci, a courageous survivor who endured almost 2 decades of degradation under Project MKUltra, has disclosed strong corroborating evidence of wide-scale crimes and corruption from the municipal state. Right here. From the municipal state level all the way up to the White House. He was testified about sexually abused males selected from Boys Town in Nebraska and taken to nearby Foot AFB, where he says they were subjected to intense monarch programming, directed mainly by Commander Bill Clemens and former Lieutenant Michael Aquino. I remember Michael Aquino. After thoroughly tormenting the young boys into mindless oblivion, they were used along with girls for pornography and prostitution with several of the nation's political and economic power brokers. Bonacci recalled being transported from the Air Force Base via cargo planes to McClellan, AFB in California. Along with other unfortunate adolescent and teenagers, he was driven to the elite retreat, Bohemian Grove. The perpetrators took full advantage of these innocent victims, committing unthinkable perversions in order to satisfy their deviant lusts. Some victims were apparently murdered, further traumatizing already terrified and broken children. That's fucking crazy. Crazy. The following information is provided by Brice Taylor. At the time of this writing in 1999, Yuri Dalbenko, I think that's how you pronounce that, Dalbenko, wrote an article for Media Bypass magazine in June 1999, where he reports that justice was finally served when a U.S. District Court recently awarded $1 million settlement to Bonacci after years of illegal aid from his attorney, John DeCamp. Continue reading on. We're going to continue reading on. An insatiable actress of marginal talent who's now deceased, a morally corrupt TV evangelist, a heralded former Green Beret officer, and a popular country western singer are a few others likely having succumbed to monarch madness. Lee Harvey Oswald, Sirhan Sirhan, Charlie Manson, John Hinckley Jr., Mark Chapman, David Koresh, Tim McVeigh, and John Salvi are some notable names of infamy strongly suspected of being pawns who were spawned by MKUltra. Charlie Manson, Tim McVeigh, certain familiar names, David Koresh. I wonder if Charlie Manson has any sort of relation to Marilyn Manson. Deprogrammers and exposers. Dr. Corydon Hammond, a psychologist from the University of Utah, delivered a stunning lecture entitled Hypnosis and Multiple Personality Disorder Ritual Abuse at the 4th Annual Eastern Regional Conference on Abuse and Multiple Personality, June 25, 1992, in Alexandria, Virginia. He essentially confirmed the suspicions of the attentive crowd of mental health professionals wherein a certain percentage of their clients had undergone mind control programming in an intensively systematic manner. Hammond alluded to the Nazi connection, military, and CIA mind control research Greek letter and color programming, and specifically mentioned the Monarch Project in relation to a form of operant conditioning. Shortly after his groundbreaking speech, he received death threats. Not wanting to jeopardize the safety of his family, Dr. Hammond stopped disseminating any follow-up information until recently. New Orleans therapist Valerie Wolf introduced two of her patients before the President's Committee on Human Radiation Experiments on March 15, 1995 in Washington, D.C. The astonishing testimony made by these two brave women included accounts of German doctors, torture, drugs, electroshock, hypnosis, and rape, besides being exposed to an undetermined amount of radiation. Both Wolf and her parents stated that they recovered the memories of this abuse without regression or hypnosis techniques. Wolf presently devotes much of her time to counseling such survivors. A former labor attorney for Atlantic Richfield, David E. Rosenbaum, conducted a 9-year investigation from 1983 to 1992 concerning allegations of physical torture and coercive conditioning of numerous employees at an Arco plant in Monica, PA. His clients Jerry L. Doty and Ann White were victims of apparent radiation exposure, but as Mr. Rosenbaum probed deeper in the subsequent interview sessions, a Pandora's box was unveiled. His most astonishing conclusion was that Jerry Doty and Ann White were likely the offspring of Adolf Hitler, based in part on the uncanny resemblance from photos, facial features, bone structure, and size were taken into consideration. Rosenbaum also states they both exhibit feelings and experiences that indicate they are twins. Notice twins. Doty and White were allegedly subjected to torture of many kids while under drug-induced hypnosis, with each one undergoing at least 3 training techniques by plant physicians. Each victim was trained to enter into hypnotic state upon the occurrence of specific stimuli, usually involving a cue word or phrase, and trained to remember to forget what transpired in the hypnotic state. This is how these celebrities are able to maintain, especially psychologically, because of the training techniques of the programming. They're repeatedly subjected to identical stimulus response. Hold on, let's read up. Each victim was trained to enter into hypnotic state upon the occurrences of specific stimuli or the occurrence of specific stimuli, usually involving a cue word or phrase, and trained to remember to forget what transpired in the hypnotic state. You know, that's what you see with like Shaq and guys who go into these glitches. They were repeatedly subjected to identical stimulus response sequences to produce nearly automatic reactions to the particular status. MK Ultra veterans Dr. Bernard Diamond, Dr. Martin Ome, and Dr. Yosef Mangel regularly visited the Arco plant, according to Rosenbaum. The special condition of Doty and White was intended for the artificial creation of dual German personalities. Rosenbaum, who was Jewish, has maintained a deep friendship with the two, despite the seemingly precarious circumstances. Other renowned therapists involved in deprogramming are Cynthia Burtis, Pamela Monday, Steve, I cannot pronounce that last name, I think that's Ogilvy, Burnett Braun, Jerry Mungays, I guess that's how you pronounce that, and Colin Ross. Some Christian counselors have been able to eliminate parts of the programming with limited success. Journalists who have recently expounded on the subject matter in exemplary fashion are Walter Bauer, Operation Mind Control, John Rappaport, U.S. government mind control experiments on children, and Alex Constantine, psychic. Alex Constantine's Psychic Dictatorship in the USA and Virtual Government, plus author researchers Alan Shefflin and Edward Opton Jr., The Mind Manipulators, Harvey Weinstein, MD Psychiatry, and the CIA, Victims of Mind Control, and Jim Keefe, Mind Control, World Control, in his latest book, Mass Control, Engineering Human Consciousness. In conclusion, the most incriminating statement to date made by a government official as to the possible existence of Project Monarch was extracted by Anson Chaikin, a writer for the publication The New Federalist. When former CIA Director William Colby was asked directly, "What about Monarch?" he replied angrily and ambiguously, "We stopped at between the late 1960s and the early 1970s. Suffice to say that society in its apparent state of cognitive dissonance is generally in denial of the overwhelming evidence of this multifarious conspiracy. Numerous victims/survivors of Project Monarch are in desperate need of help," and that's a true statement. That's a true statement. It's very important for us to consider things that we don't understand, consider things that we're not privy to, consider things that we shirk at, or we scoff at. Just when it comes to our cognitive dissonance, sometimes it's one of those things where we choose not to believe it. Just in terms of certain sect of our people. All right, reading on. However, the great majority of people are too preoccupied with themselves to show any genuine compassion toward these severely wounded individuals. Apathy has taken over the minds of the masses. That's a fact. A lot of people are apathetic just when it comes to, just generalities. Very apathetic towards situations that's serious. A lot of people are facetious. That's just what it is. Apathy has taken over the minds of the masses who choose to exist within the comforts of this world. That's a whole fact. That's a whole fact. And the comforts of this world is based in simplicity, based in you only knowing what they want you to know, as opposed to what you need to know. Reality has thus become obscured by relativism and selfishness. Right, a lot of people are in derivative. A lot of people are it's the same type of people. For the most part, we all have the same goals, same aspirations, because there's nothing new under the sun. But we're all different in certain ways that make us who we are. But in these days, there's a lot of redundant people, a lot of derivative people, a lot of the same type of people, especially when it comes to group think, things of that nature. So that's very, very true, and it speaks volumes. Although there has been some progress in deprogramming and reintegrating therapies, a much greater problem needs to be rectified. The Holy Bible addresses this problem as a fragmentation of the soul in Ezekiel 13-20. A spiritual restoration is what is truly needed in Psalms 23:3. This right here is Ezekiel chapter 13 and verse 20, where it says, "Wherefore thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against your pillows, wherewith ye there hunt the souls to make them fly, and I will tear them from your arms, and will let the souls go, even the souls that ye hunt to make them fly." That's going into phylacteries. Like when it comes to pillows, it goes back to the Hebrew word kashet, which means phylacteries, just going into the bands that were worn by some of the prophetesses, the demonic prophetesses who quote unquote kept the law. The fake Jews took this, and it's pretty much something that they practice, which is, it's not something that's adjacent with, the people of true Israel, just when it comes to what we practice. You have fringes, you have people who just keep the law in general. But when it comes to these people, these so-called Jews, the people who dwell in the synagogue of Satan, they turn everything righteous into something left, especially when it comes to the woman, the demonic female prophetesses, back in the times of Deborah and whatnot, where it was just totally off. So the pillows is talking about phylacteries, which is bands that were worn to keep the law, but they weren't keeping the law. And these people now, they adhere to Talmudic principles and the Kabbalah and whatnot. And also the twofold aspect of the scripture, just going into the fragmentation of the soul and how that is correlative with what's going on with celebrities, the people that they push, the people that's in high levels of society, prominent people, public figures. Those people are compromised and controlled, and their soul is fragmented. So in Psalms 23:3, it's kind of like the antithesis where you precept the scriptures in Ezekiel, and it gives you the understanding just when it comes to you coming into something that's healthy and righteous and a real way of life when it comes to how you're supposed to live. He restoreth my soul, he leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So this is Psalms 23:3. Yea, though I walk in the yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Most famous scripture, one of the most famous scriptures, and this is just going into the understanding of the Lord being with you. Like David, he understood that the Lord was with him. So it was just that confidence of protection from the Heavenly Father. You know, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And also in Ezekiel, you go into the valley of the dry bones. So within that is the shadow of death. It's very important for us to understand. The shadow of death is just talking about the realm in which we live, where it's easy for us to partake in sin. That's what it's going into. So just going further into it, page 32, going into the manufacturing the mind-controlled slave. If the child has survived the initial trials, and if they also prove intelligent but malleable, then if the programming goes right, a very, very small infant that has been conditioned from day one is a powerful weapon. This is very, very important for us to understand when it comes to celebrities like LeBron James. And not just celebrities like LeBron James, but celebrities in general, where you see a certain level of skill that's like almost ethereal. It's almost like it's effortless that goes into the programming. Like take for like a Kendrick Lamar, very versatile. Execution is on point, very sharp. Just when it comes to his ability, not even talking about just rapping, just in terms of like how he does it, how he executes. That's all a part of the programming. And you study, like look at his eye, look at his left eye. You know, the tweaked or the lazy, sleepy eye is always an indication, especially if it's pronounced, like a Kendrick Lamar. A very pronounced sleepy eye. That goes into the programming. Pay attention to these celebrities in their eye. You know, some of it is just a natural thing where, you know, you may have a little bit of a sleepy eye, but for the most part, it's common with celebrities because it's a part of the procedure, it's part of the programming where you get electroshock treatment and your eye begins to be sleepy. That's just real. It is what it is. It's the truth. If the child has survived the initial trials and if they also prove intelligent but malleable, then if the programming goes right and a very, very small infant that has been conditioned from day one is a powerful weapon, because if you get a mind that early, as anyone knows, you can 9 times out of 10, I would say, determine the general behaviors of that child and the adult that they will become. Gloria, a former patient and mind control subject. It's like that prognostication where it's like we already understand what this person is gonna be. That's LeBron James. I'm just using him as an example, but it's a lot of celebrities. But you know, he comes to the fore. He comes to the front of my mind because that's someone that was pretty much, you know, he was created per se, just in terms of the understanding of what goes into the procedures and how they have some sort of prognosis for the quote unquote subject, chosen one. This is what he was supposed to become. Kobe Bryant, you know, Michael Jordan, guys like that. My first experience with a patient who had been involved in mind control experimentation began when Gloria initially called me looking for a therapist who accepted Medicare insurance. She said she had been sexually abused as a child and had been in therapy periodically for a number of years. I was not a Medicare provider, but agreed to see her temporarily while she looked for someone else. On the day of our first appointment, I walked into the waiting room to greet her and ask for Gloria. A woman looked up from a corner and slowly, shyly, with head lowered and eyes looking up, shuffled toward me. In a childlike voice, she held both her hands together tightly, hunched her shoulders, and said with a sweet smile, "Gloria asked me to come. I'm Sally." She then twirled on her toes and pointed to a plant on the table, saying again in a childlike voice, "That sure is pretty." Yeah, this is her being under mind control. Puzzled, I smiled and asked her to follow me to my office. During the course of that 1 hour, four different personalities with different ages and genders presented themselves to me. Yeah, this is her, pretty much exemplifying the hypnosis. We would be talking about some topic, and suddenly a switch would occur, and someone else's voice, mannerisms, and way of sitting and speaking would present. It was as though four different people were in my room, although all were housed in the same body. Multiple personality disorder, that's what that is. Although I heard of multiple personality disorder, just like I said, or MPD before, I had never seen it and had been told in graduate school that it was very rare. I remember thinking of after Gloria left that if she were faking it, as patients are often accused of doing by clinicians who don't understand, she would have to have the mimicking abilities of a Billy Crystal and the acting abilities of a Meryl Streep to consistently stay in character for each of these personalities. For before we were though, I had met 27 inside people. For before we were through, I had met 27 inside people, also referred to as alters. Yep, that's what it is, it's alters. Within Gloria, and learned about the names and roles of literally hundreds more. Since that introduction to MPD, now known as DID, dissociative identity disorder, dissociative identity disorder, or I have worked with dozens of patients with that diagnosis and have consulted with other clinicians and their parents so often I have lost count. These patients have taught me so very much about the human mind and have challenged me to learn about topics I have never thought to explore. In my efforts to convince myself, surely what these people are saying cannot be true, I have researched and studied both scientific and popular literature in a variety of fields and have time and again come to the conclusion that what they are reporting could indeed be true. Excuse me. The historical background, technology, methodology, motivation, funding, and opportunity are all in place. My task now is to help others understand and believe. I like to define some terms that you will hear when learning about people with multiple personalities. Disassociation is a key term that refers to the ability of the mind to cut off a part of itself from conscious awareness. An everyday example of this ability, which we all have in varying degrees, is the experience of driving down the freeway and missing the exit you take every day because you are thinking about something else. Yeah, that's dissociation. That's exactly what that is. You come to an exit or to later and realize you have missed your exit. So we're gonna get more into it.